Please don't forget stories. I mentioned last night, mobility is one of the key initiatives that's going on in many agencies as part of this overall modernization and transformation and efficiency efforts. And I heard from, it was actually Colleen Coggins, who got Malcolm and I introduced about a couple months ago, and we had a chat. And I was really excited about what Malcolm had achieved at EPA with his team, and I thought it'd be wonderful to have him here to share that story with you. Malcolm is the CIO for the EPA, and in this role, he is responsible for IT operations and security, information quality and collection, and access to environmental information, including the toxic release inventory. His leadership focus include IT strategic planning and governance, IT investment management, and government transparency. And we have to be extra thankful that he's here. He's been battling, I guess, allergies. His voice is quite troubled, so it's really kind of a make it. We really do appreciate you being here, Malcolm. So with that, we'll hand it off to him.
Thank you. Yes, how's everyone doing today? You know, as I know it's early in the morning and it's difficult to get up to come to an event at 7:30 in the morning, or I know this breakfast is served and all, but it's still difficult to get everyone up early in the morning to come hear someone speak, and especially if we're talking about things like mobility, things that I know interest a lot of people, but it's also difficult getting up. So I appreciate everyone coming out today. Last night at dinner, I was listening to Bob Breeze give his speech, and Bob, where's Bob? I know I saw him in here. He walked in here. Oh, there he is, Bob. Okay, my good friend Bob. Bob talked about all the folks that he had from Energy that were here that were supposed to provide questions or applause, I think what it was. It was applause. So he filled the crowd with folks from his organization to applaud him. I didn't. I have one person. One person. Vaughn Noga, who is my Chief Technology Officer. And Vaughn's here for a different reason, not applause. Vaughn is here because every time I get up to give a speech, I commit to something. I commit to something that Vaughn has to implement. So I guess he found out that I'd be here today, so he wanted to hear firsthand what I'd commit to in front of a crowd that he would have to go implement. The first thing that I did, I gave a speech about, I don't know, I guess it was about 18 months ago, and I said, we're going to cloud. It was the first thing with email, and he heard about it. Someone wrote it, I don't know, some trade journal wrote about it, and he read it in the trade journal, and he said, so I heard you say we're taking email to cloud. Yep, we're doing it. What are we doing? We're taking email to cloud. Next thing, I was giving a speech, and I said, you know, we're going to do mobile first. Any application that's citizen-facing, if it's citizen-facing, then you will write it for mobile devices first. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but he heard about that, too. So now I think this time around he says, I want to be here, I want to hear it, I want to hear it firsthand, and then he will probably pull me to the side and say, you didn't really say that, did you? Because I get that all the time. I get, do you realize what you said? But I do realize what I'm saying, and I have to tell you, I'm having a wonderful time. It's been roughly 1 year, 356 days that I've been in this role. Not that I'm counting, but it's been a wonderful time. And it's my first entry into the federal space. My entire career had been in the private space. So coming over and learning about the federal space has been exciting, it's been entertaining, and I must tell you, I've learned how difficult it can be to be working in the federal space and some of the challenges from a budgetary perspective, but I also recognize the benefits that the federal space brings to the American citizens, and I'm just thrilled to be here and looking forward to just the future and all. So on to my presentation. Oh, you got it up here. Okay. Let me see if I can do this. I got to put my glasses on because I got to see this keyboard. This is a small keyboard. Where's the page down on this? Is it? Okay. So let me talk a moment about my agenda here today. I was told that I was supposed to be interesting. I was told that I was supposed to be engaging. I was told that I was supposed to be provocative. And I said, I don't know if I can be any of those things. So what I'm going to try and do is be informative. I mean, informative in the sense of telling you a story of EPA, talking about where we are from a mobility perspective, where I came into the agency, how we started, but more importantly, I'm going to tell you where we're going and how we're going to get there. And this is really an exciting time for us at EPA. We have some exciting things that are going on, and I'm very quick to say that where we are today is going to be very different than where we are 18 months from now. And that is going to be the game changer for us at EPA. But before I begin, before I go through this agenda, I thought I'd ask a question of you because I want to make sure that all of you are awake today and all of you are really paying attention to me. So here it is, and let me see. Do we have John Teeter in the audience? He might be the only one. I can say that about him because I know him, but he's not here. So my first question, to you is, when was the first portable handheld mobile phone created? Now, who would know the answer to that question? Come on. You guys are awake, aren't you? Pardon me? 1950? Actually, no. It was made in 1973 by Motorola, but it didn't get commercialized till 83. A couple of points about this device is that it cost about just under $4,000, and it weighed about 2.5 pounds. It's this big brick. I mean, a lot of you probably remember this. It had about a 30-minute talk time, and it took 10 hours to charge that. Think about where we are today with mobile devices and what you can do with mobile devices today. We've come a long way. And I just think about where we're going. Where we're going is just places that we haven't even begun to think about. I heard someone say yesterday that, actually I think it was Bob, he talked about that we're training our students today are in school for jobs that haven't been invented. I know that my job wasn't even invented when I was in college. So you think about that, and you think about the devices and where we're going. The whole commercialization of mobile devices is going to change federal government and change the American citizens as a whole. So when you think about, I talked about the industry, the agenda here, we're going to talk about the industry, the past, the present, the future. I'm going to take a moment and talk about the history of secure mobile devices at EPA. And that's going to be a short conversation because we didn't have a whole lot of them. The list was not long at all. I'm going to take a moment and talk about security concerns. Now, I love to tell people there are so many things from a technology perspective that I worry about. But there's things, those types of things that are technology-based probably can be solved with money or with a business process. But security is something that keeps me up at night, and it keeps me up during the day. It keeps me up all throughout the day. It's the one thing that I'm worried about all the time. Now, I'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about the evolution of cybersecurity at EPA. I'll just cover the recent cyber threats that we've had, and you'll see that I'm going to touch on some of the things around that and kind of what I think is going to happen relative to cyber threats. And then what's going on at EPA right now? Some of the things that I see as what I said, game changers, things that we're in the process of implementing, things that we're in the process of negotiating. There's some things that Vaughn will quickly tell me I can't talk about, but I will touch on some of those and try and not go too deeply in them. Then I'm going to talk about future challenges. Future challenges as I see them and kind of where I see us going in terms of the convergence of technology. There's this convergence happening today, something that we all have to have an eye on and begin to think about. No longer do we have the luxury of going where technology is today. We have to go in the direction technology is moving in order to be able to prepare our workforce for the future. And that's really important here. So let me see if I can be technically savvy here and go forward. Yeah. So let's take a look at this. Moving on to my next slide here. Now, how many people remember all these phones now? How many people, if you could raise your hands, how many people here has owned one of these phones? I'll bet you I've owned every last one of them up there. And it's amazing to think about where we have been from a mobile perspective, just devices. Now, what's not included here are tablets and some of the other things that are going on today. But you get a sense for the mobile device industry. I actually worked in the mobile device industry for a brief period of time, and it was in the late late 80s, and one of the things they said is they were looking to have, they saw a world where everyone would have a mobile device, a cellular phone in their hands. And when they said that, I didn't believe it. But look what's happened today. And look and you can imagine what's going to be happening in the future. Actually, I did an inventory on how many phones I actually owned, or at least devices, and I lost count around 40. Yeah, I mean, it makes you raise your eyebrows, but think for a moment about the kids today who are growing up and all the devices that they own and how device savvy they are and technically savvy they are. And these are the people who are coming into our workforce in the next 10 to 15 years, and we need to begin to prepare for them. And it's a real problem that we have that we're not paying as close of attention to, but it's one that we really need to take more attention to and figure out how do we begin to fill the gap that's going to be existing when we have a number of government employees that will be leaving the workforce due to retirement and things of that nature. And so how do you begin to fill that gap toward the future? Anyway, I'd like to begin my talk about discussion of mobile devices in general and just where the industry's been, what we're doing at EPA. Then I'm going to move into a couple of other specifics around mobile devices at EPA. I think we're at a pivotal point at EPA relative to mobile devices. We sit today at BlackBerries as our primary device, but I will tell you in 12 to 18 months, I think we'll have less BlackBerries than anything else. I see BlackBerries going away, primarily because the growth of smartphones, the growth of moving toward a world where, at least in my mind, I don't care what kind of device they own. It doesn't matter. That's where we have to begin to get to. And I recognize that this is something that's more easily said than done. But I think that as leaders of a technology leader for EPA, I need to set the direction and begin to talk about the path forward and begin to put things into place around where we're going, how we're going to get there, and begin to educate and build awareness within the agency, with our leaders, within our staff, to help them understand how we're going to get there and what it means to them. I think the educational part for our staff in terms of what it means to them, the risk implications from a e-discovery perspective if they're using their own devices, all these are very important things that they need to be made aware of and how it's going to impact them as a whole. Excuse me one moment. My voice is just horrible, so I apologize. I've been coughing. You've heard that I have allergies. I'm not allergic to any of you. I'm not contagious. It's just that I got this allergy thing going on, and it's just killing me right now. But I'm glad to be here to be touching on a couple things. Now, history of devices. Now, I talked about where we are or where we've been. When I first came to EPA, our risk profile was low to moderate. Low to moderate from the perspective of what we essentially had was BlackBerries and laptops. And we had our security, we had monitoring, we had all the same things that everyone has from a security perspective. Our perimeter monitoring, our continuous monitoring, all that was going on. But you have to ask the question of, is that enough? Is that enough for enabling our workforce? One of the things that I have an innovation team that we meet monthly, and we talk about what are the things that we can do to make life easier for our employees. I'm going to say that again. What are the things that we can do to make life easier for our employees? That is our ultimate goal, making life easier for employees. And it has, if you notice, we do not mention technology. We do not mention work. Our goal is to find ways that make employees feel good about being at work. When you think about the amount of hours that employees spend at work, they spend more time at work than they do with their family members. And we want to make them feel good about being at work. So how do you remove the technology barriers in a way that's continuing to protect our IT assets? Because security is very important. But you want to make it to a point where employees feel good about coming to work and using the tools that we provide to them. Now, when you look at what we've had in the past, that's going to change. And we're in the process of changing that right now. Now, what's not on that list is we do have some Apple products that we offer. In fact, I am actually using an iPad that we started in the last, as Vaughn smiles, we started using Apple iPads about a year and a half ago for a small set of employees that we were doing pilots from. And we learned a lot from them. Now, based on that, we're taking that learning and we're beginning to figure out where do we go, because we want to move away from this world of Blackberries and laptops, and into a world where, going back to my earlier comment, we want to make life easier for our employees. We want to unleash our employees. We want to put them in a position where they feel good about using technology, that they don't feel as though we're years behind. I can't tell you how many employees have come to me and asked the question of, can they use their personal devices, or why are we so far behind from a technology perspective at EPA, and for that matter, across the entire federal government. From a technology perspective, we have got to change. We have got to find a way to move and be more quicker toward moving, because the commercialization of technology is changing so fast that we, as leaders in the world of technology for the federal government, have to keep the same pace and find a way of keeping the same pace. Now, I have a question for those of you who are leaders of technology here, particularly in the federal government. How many of you are struggling with the same type of challenges that we are challenging? If I could just get a raise of hands in the room. Well, I know your hand would go up. You're supposed to applaud, but that's okay. And how many of you are sharing best practices across agencies and departments on what you've learned relative to this move from older technology toward newer technology? Or are you trying to solve it on your own? So is it solve it on your own, or is it you're learning from others?
Sharing lessons learned.
Across agencies?
Across departments.
Yeah, that's one of the things that coming into the federal government, I found a bit interesting. Not that, but that we didn't do as much of that, of sharing of best practices and learnings. When I first came into EPA, I'll tell you a couple people that helped me. NASA did a lot of work in helping me, as well as Ag, USDA, and Energy did some as well in reaching out. Because one of the things that I believe in is, I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. I believe in, if there's some best practice out there, if there's someone using something that I need, the first thing we want to do is pick up the phone and call and ask those questions. I tell my team all the time, if it's something that we're doing really well, we want to share it. If it's something that someone else is doing really well, we want to steal it. We have no pride here. What impresses me is getting the job done, getting it done at the right price. Notice I didn't say the lowest cost. And getting it done in the most optimum way. Those are the types of things that impress me. Now, moving on, I want to take a moment and talk about the evolution of cyber at EPA. We had, you can see here on the board, we've had a lot of things that have happened to us from a cyber perspective, from an evolution perspective. You know, we published our first agency-wide manual in 1999. Now, I wasn't around in 1999. At least I wasn't at EPA. I was around. I'm old enough to have been here then. But what we found is that there were a lot of things that we weren't doing very well. You notice up there we talk about this, our GAO report that identified a number of weaknesses, and I'm going to take you through some of the things that, that we concluded from this. The GAO, in 2000, we were delivered what we are calling a major blow when GAO evaluated our information security program at the request of Congress. Now, who in here would like to have Congress tell GAO to investigate a program of any nature, let alone cybersecurity? So you can imagine what that looked like. And the report stated that they found serious and pervasive problems that rendered our information security program basically ineffective. It even went so far as to ask us to shut down a particular website. Now, you can only imagine what we were going through in 2000 to try and resolve and fix this. We knew we had a problem from a cybersecurity perspective, and we knew we had to take steps to rectify that problem. Now, at that time, mobile devices were not that big of a deal. We're talking about some laptops, but not a lot. We're talking mainly PCs and our, I'm not sure if we even had terminals at the time because I wasn't here in 2000. But one of the outcomes of this is that's when they created the office that I am in now, Office of Environmental Information. And it was primarily to focus on not just the CIO office, but cybersecurity. And we made tremendous changes at that time. Now, some of these changes centered around the information security program and took into account things that hadn't been done in the past at EPA. They created a security office within EPA, which focused on a number of different things, things which seem common to you today, but back in 2000, I'm not sure about other agencies or departments, but weren't common at EPA. So it had to be a change, if you will. This security office focused on IT security planning, security program management, the evaluation of security effectiveness, operational-based security tools, incident response, continuous monitoring, all of the basic things that are common today, but for EPA in 2000 was brand new. And one of the things that I didn't mention that I probably should mention is EPA is a decentralized IT shop. So we have a core IT organization, but various offices that within EPA, our offices are, to familiarize you with them, are the Office of Water, the Office of Air, Office of Pesticides, all, just to name a few, but all of them have their own IT organizations. They had to begin to align with this IT security operations group, which was beginning to look into the work that they were doing. So you can just imagine the challenges associated with that. But the good news is that we got a good IT security operations team in place. We began the types of monitoring, the types of security oversight that was required and necessary. So we moved into a world of awareness, education, and beginning to secure our environment. But what I would say is that wasn't enough. We needed to do more. So as you can see, there are other things here listed in 2001, 2002, the creation of the Technology and Information Security Staff. We also, in 2002, we had some challenges, if you will, with the FISMA requirements around continuous monitoring, but we were able to resolve those. The reason I wanted to bring this up and talk about this is the world of cybersecurity for us at EPA has been evolving. Where we're going, it will continue to evolve. And I'm going to touch on some of this in a bit, but imagine, if you will, when you think about all the mobile devices that we soon will be entering into our world, moving away from BlackBerries, moving into tablets and some of the other smartphones that are being offered, what the impact this will have on us, and how do we begin to look at that and begin to plan for that as we go forward into the future. It's something that's very real for us at EPA. It's something that's very real for everyone in the federal government. It's something that's very real for even the private sector. How do you begin to protect your information in a way that you feel good? How do you begin to protect your information if individuals lose devices, in terms of wiping that information and ensuring that it's not released into the private sector, or worse yet, just thinking about cybersecurity from the perspective of international hackers or things of that nature. So it's going to continue to evolve, and it's probably the area that we will continue to spend a tremendous amount of time in and begin to stay on top of. So now I want to take a moment to talk about recent threats. Now, this bar, this just gives you, this is just a list, or at least a number of threats that we've had at EPA over the last, 5 years or so. I'm predicting that line is going to go up. It may triple in the coming years. It's going to triple because cybersecurity, when you think about hackers, 25 years ago, the hackers were a lot smarter than they are today. And you look at me and say, why it doesn't seem to be the case. Well, 25 years ago, hackers had to write their own code. They had to be smart enough and figure out how to write code and get into systems in a way that they didn't have tools that were available. Today, with YouTube, today with the internet, today with these communities that exist outside of, let's just say, the individuals that are looking to get and cause havoc from a cybersecurity perspective, it's easy to be a hacker. Any one of you can be a hacker today. All you have to do is know where to go and download the tools, and you can become a hacker. And you can create problems. And what I'm predicting is that this number will go up tremendously in the coming years, particularly with regard to mobile devices and the ability for kids of all ages, adults of all ages, to be able to become a hacker. So I just wanted to take you through this to show you this. It's just more of a visual representation of the number of threats that we've had and what I'm anticipating will happen in the coming years relative to cyber threats for us at EPA. Now, I would ask a question. Have cyber threats, for those here in the audience, have they been going up over the years? It's just when you guys respond to a question that I ask you. I see heads nodding. Okay, thank you. I just want to know, because I believe that to be the case, but I was just curious if it was only us. Because I'm sure everyone wants all that environmental information that we have. It's information that I'm sure that everyone wants to be aware of. All of our Superfund sites and which facility has had a number of well, I won't go into that. Anyway, moving on to, now I want to take a moment to talk about our current initiatives. As I said, we're going to be in a very different place 18 months from now. But right now, we've got a number of initiatives. Thank you. We have a number of initiatives underway, and I want to take a moment and talk about them, each one of these initiatives that I think will be game changers and will be positioning us for the future. And one in particular is going to be a pillar for change for us at EPA that's going to be the pillar that will help us from a mobility perspective. Well, let me begin with tablets. We are in the process of piloting window-based tablets. We're going to be looking at conducting around 50 pilots within EPA, with the goal being that we want to learn how people use tablets and how they can help enable our workforce. Back to my comment around making life easier for our employees. When you think about early responders, from an emergency perspective, we have what are called early responders. These are individuals who are on the ground when you have a hurricane, tornado, or things of that nature. And what they've had in the past, and it's really kind of embarrassing to say this, but what they've had in the past has been what we call the Green Book. and it's literally a green book. And they wrote down what they saw, they took notes, and then they went back to the office and keyed all this in whenever they got back to the office. Imagine that for a moment. They took pictures with a camera, and then they had to upload those pictures when they got back to the office. We're now looking at providing those individuals with tablets that will be able to connect with our back office to the systems that they have, that in the past they were keying this information in once they got back to the office. They'll be able to do this remotely in the field, and you can only imagine how taking a tablet, having the ability to take a picture, and that picture be sent back immediately, and being able to respond and react to those. Think about the ability, or at least a shortened time frame that's going to be associated with that. Think about the comment I made about making life easier for our employees, what that will do for us. Now, we've got, that's just one example, but we have others as well, and I won't take you through all those different examples, but it's our goal to pilot these tablets in the coming months, and then assuming that we reach all the security that's associated with them, and we work through all the technology challenges that we anticipate that we'll have with them, we plan to be offering tablets at our agency sometime in the fall. Right, Vaughn? And the objective is to begin to move to a different paradigm from a work perspective. Think about mobility, think about telework, think about the world in which we're moving into and providing these tools to our employees. And I actually believe that if we do that, and we do it in the right way, it'll be a tool that we can use for recruiting workers to EPA. We're looking to leverage and use technology as a way of recruiting and helping to bring in a new workforce to our agency. So tablets are one of the biggest things that we're looking at, and that will be in place by the end of the calendar year, assuming that we work through all the challenges. Telework. Telework is something which I know everyone's working on here. I know that GSA has, it's interesting, I was having a meeting with GSA, and we were talking about they're moving to a new building, and they're really pushing telework, and I may have the numbers wrong, and I'm sure there's someone here from GSA who will call me out if I'm wrong on this, but so I'll use a range. It said that they're looking to move, when they move into the new building, there will be somewhere between 7 and 9 people to every seat. Think about that for a moment. 7 to 9 people to every seat that they'll offer in their building. Now, how they're going to do that is through telework and the tools that they're offering. We're looking at something not as drastic as that, but we're looking at space reductions at EPA. We're looking at how do we provide technology that's going to help us support telework and also help us support our space reduction goals. So we're looking at what are the tools that are necessary, what are the policies that we need to put in place, how do we educate our workforce, and one of the biggest challenges I see with telework has not been so much on the workers, it's been more on the managers. How do managers feel comfortable about managing people that they don't see? And that I find really fascinating, because I don't know any manager who sits and looks at their employees every day, every minute of the day, every hour of the day. So we have to change how we look at managing our employees. We have to provide them with the right tools. We have to set the right expectations. So it's all around education. It's all around building trust. It's all about ensuring that the objectives of whatever your agency and department are being met from a goal perspective. So it's more moving toward a goal-based management style that I get a sense a lot of people aren't real comfortable with. So I'm going to skip collaboration tools. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. because I want to talk a bit about that in a few minutes. Wireless networks. So we're in the process of, I don't want to say installing, but we will be installing wireless networks in the coming year. We will have a world where employees will be able to walk around our building with their devices and be able to access our networks and be able to work from wherever they sit, wherever they are, conference rooms, courtyards, just pick up their devices and go. That is where we're planning, and that's what we're going to be doing from a wireless perspective. All these things will be in place in the next 12 to 18 months. Right, Vaughn? But this is important because I feel that employees it will unleash them from their desks. It will create collaboration. It will create a more teaming environment. It will enable employees to do things that they had never done before, particularly for us at an EPA. I'm not sure about everyone else in other agencies and departments. I can just talk about the EPA story and also talk about where we're going from an agency perspective. I think wireless is going to help us from that perspective. Coming from the private sector, it's something that we've had for years, and it's something that I'm really pushing hard to have in place at EPA. The next one is around hardware, new hardware. We're in the process of awarding a new hardware contract, one that actually is split into three. One is around desk side support, one is around print services, and the last one is hardware. It's looking at, well, let me step back. We had a contract that we awarded, I'm going to guess around 5 years ago, that wasn't the best contract for EPA. Didn't service our employees to the level that we expected or needed them. So we stepped back, learning from that, and now the contract is up this year. So this new award will come out, and we'll be deploying new hardware that will help us change the agency from where we are today. This new hardware will provide video conferencing. It's going to have all the things necessary to enable our mobile workforce. And I'm excited about this because it's going to change the paradigm for our agency as a whole. It is something that we've needed for some time, and I'm looking forward to just the outcome of the awarding of that and then begin to look at where we're going from it. The next one is BYOD. When he first started saying that, I know everyone was laughing because I know I wanted to say BYOB. And after last night, I'm sure some of you took bottles back with you to your rooms. And it's casino night tonight, right? Oh, I'm going to miss that. I'm so sorry. I'm going to miss that. But anyway, BYOD is something that I believe in very strongly. We are going to begin work around bring your own device in the very near future. We've got a couple things we need to put in place before we begin to go down that path. But we're going to move to a world where we don't care. I don't care what kind of mobile device they bring. We want to be able to provide access to information. We want to make sure it's in a secure format. We want to make sure that we can wipe those devices if information is on those devices. But I don't care about what device they bring. I think employees should be able to use whatever device they feel most comfortable with. Because if you do that and you do it in the right way, I think they'll be more productive. I know they'll feel better about working. And back to my earlier comment, it'll make life easier for them. And then if we make life easier for them, then my hypothesis is that we'll get more throughput from them. It'll be a richer engagement, and that they will enjoy coming and being at work. And that's what's really important. But if you notice, I have up there, the profile is extremely high from a risk perspective. This is something that we've got to really sit back and consider and figure out what are we going to be doing and how do we ensure that our information or the government's information is protected from a cyber security perspective. Now, I've talked about tablets, I've talked about telework, I've talked about wireless network, I've talked about new hardware, and and I've talked about BYOD, and I've gotten a 15-minute call over there saying I have like 15 minutes to continue talking. So I've always been known to go over. So I probably will be pulled. But anyway, I'm going to take a moment and talk about collaboration tools. Collaboration tools is where I've been using this term game changer. It is a pillar for what we view as a game changer for the agency. Now, let me tell you what we're doing right now. We have on the street right now a RFP for collaboration tools and a new email system. We're doing it differently than anyone else has done it across the federal government and in the past. What we're doing is we have a large contract vehicle. We have 7 primes who are under that vehicle. And those 7 primes have been tasked with going out and negotiating the contract for our new collaboration tools. And then there they have what we initially gave them, well, we put information out there. They have 30 days to come back with their proposal. We're going to do 30 days of evaluation. Then we're awarding. And the contract is written, it says from the date of award, they have 4 months to implement. Now think about that for a moment. 30 days to put it out there, 30 days to come back with a response. No, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It goes out, 30 days to come back with a response. We have 30 days to award it, and then 4 months. We're ripping the Band-Aid off. We're taking it off. We're moving from where we are today. It's aggressive. It's extremely aggressive. And I'll tell you why it's aggressive. Because I think any kind of change that's slow is very painful. It's so painful. But we, as an agency at EPA, we need collaboration tools like you would not believe. The world is changing with the compression of budgets, and everyone's experiencing this. They use the term do more with less, whatever you want to call it. We have to find a way to better enable our employees to do their jobs in a way that they've never done them before. We've got to find a way to build teams that span across agencies. We've got to find a way to build teams that span across the public-private sector. Now, how do you do that? You can do that with collaboration tools. Collaboration tools, I believe, are the answer. Now, as I mentioned, there's a number of things listed up there. Tablets, telework, wireless networks, new hardware, BYOD. What is the thing that's going to help us enable to do that? It's going to be the collaboration tools. When we make a choice on that, that is going to be the enabler for us to deliver all the other pieces that's sitting up there. So as I mentioned earlier, we've got the tablets that are going to be out in the fall. The collaboration tools, based on our timeline right now, we're looking at a November, December startup timeframe. We just put this on the street, I'm looking at Vaughn, what, 6 weeks ago? May 31st, as he says. May 31st, we're looking to go live this calendar year. He will tell you what I said to him is, I want to have, as he smiles, I said, I want to have collaboration tools delivered in a year that begins with a 2 and ends with a 2, and there's no other 2 in that year. So, it's aggressive, but we can do this. And what I've told people on our team is, there's no other time that the agency needs us as today. What we can offer will change the agency as a whole and help set the stage for the future for us. And I know that we can do this. It's something that we have the right set of skills, we've got the right set of people, and more importantly, we have people in front of us. We have our federal family members who have done this ahead of us. And we are working with them and learning from them and figuring out what do we need to do to ensure that this is successful. I know it'll be successful. We just have to make sure that we plan for it, we're pragmatic about it, we do the right types of education and awareness about it, and that we prepare our workers for the future. And then if we do it, not if, when we do it, we're going to change the workforce as a whole. And I'm excited about this. This is one of the things that when I look back on what we have done, This will be the one thing that will change us as a whole. So moving on, I want to kind of move through these quickly because I've got about 10 minutes and I want to open it up for questions in a few moments. Now, future of secure device challenges. This gets to this paradigm shift. I think today that a lot of people look at security as the CIO's responsibility or the CISO's responsibility. We have got to do a better job of educating everyone around it's everyone's responsibility. You're only as weak as the one weakest point in your organization. That individual hits that link that takes them to some phishing site, and then, of course, then you're introducing some sort of malware into your network. We've got to make sure people understand that, are educated, and know that it's not just our being technology's responsibility, it's everyone's responsibility. You've got to get agency leadership, engagement, and ownership. And we've got to move from a reactive to a proactive view of it, of security. And I don't just mean within IT. I'm talking about across the entire organization, agencies, departments as a whole. And we need to begin to share more across agencies and departments around cybersecurity as a whole. Now, I want to take a moment and talk about the convergence of technology. Now, I see a world where tablets, laptops, desktop phones, all these are going to converge into one device. I see a world where in the next 5 years, we won't have desktop phones at EPA. They're going away. So as leaders of technology, we need to begin to think about that and begin to think about what are the other components in the world of technology that are going to be converging and moving away from where we are today. There will be less devices. There will be less devices available, and those devices that are available will do more things. We as leaders have to begin to think about those and begin to plan for the future. As I talked about or said earlier, moving toward a world where we make information more readily available, we make technology more seamless, we move to a world where people are excited about using devices and they're using less of them. And it makes their jobs easier, and it makes information more available, readily available for the American citizens as a whole. I've had conversations with multiple agencies around geospatial, sharing geospatial data, sharing geospatial platforms. We now have a federal geospatial platform which a number of agencies and departments are all using, but we can do more. We need to move more to a national geospatial platform that you have devices that can access this information. Going back to my earlier comment about mobile first initiative, we need to begin to build devices that are first built for mobile devices, then you think about desktop devices. And this convergence, this technology convergence, is just beginning. It's just beginning. Things are going to be changing over the next 5 years in ways that none of us have ever thought about. But as leaders, we need to begin to think about that, and how do we prepare our organizations and our workers for this convergence and change that's happening. We at EPA see that as collaboration tools being the first piece of it. We at EPA see that as devices, being agnostic from a device perspective, being a piece of that. How we get there from a policy perspective, I don't have all the answers yet. I'm not going to stand before you and tell you that we've worked through all those things. But as a leader of technology, my view on that is I'm pointing in a direction, I'm setting a path of where we're going, and knowing that the policy pieces will catch up with it. We have to do that in a secure way. We have to do that in a way that meets the needs of our agencies, whatever our missions are for our agencies. But we have to do it in a way that have employees feeling good about what they do and helping them to do their jobs in ways that they've never done their jobs before, because there's going to be tremendous pressure for them to get their jobs done with even less than what they've had before. So with that, I'm going to close, at least close my piece of it in terms of my speech. I'm going to open it up for questions. So look, do we have time for questions?
Yeah, we have about 5 minutes.
Okay, so we have 5 minutes for questions. So I'll open it up for questions, but it's been, and then I'll have my closing remarks. Questions? Oh.
What are your plans for providing tech support for the BYOC?
So I think there's going to be a blend there. I think that with the one piece is there will be a base tech support for some of that, but I also believe that with the number of workers that are coming into the workforce today, that their technology intelligence is at a much higher level than, I'm not trying to say that we're not as intelligent, but they're just more technically savvy than workers that we have that came in, I'll say, in the 80s and 90s. So I don't think it will be as big of an issue as it is today. And I also think that some of the tools that we offer through the communities, these collaboration tools that we're offering, that the communities that can be created through that can help solve some of those problems as well.
And what about lost or theft under the
I'm sorry?
What about lost or theft that bring their own device? What happens in that?
What about, I'm sorry.
Lost or theft that bring their
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Oh, lost? Oh, on BYOD? That's something that we're going to have to solve for. It's interesting. I think that there's a question here around, does the agency buy the device itself, or can the employee bring their own device? Now, see, the BYOD kind of spans a couple different ways. One of them is the agency buys it and it lets the employee choose what they want to use, or the employee brings their own device. I think that, well, first of all, we have to make sure that we're able to wipe the devices. So assuming that to be the case, if it's the employee's own device, that's something which it's really on the employee at that point. If it's something that the agency bought, then it's no different than what you have today. Same type of policies. Yes?
Yeah, you earlier spoke about information sharing between agencies. Do you have any ideas on how we can perhaps, what needs to be used to accelerate that standard? I'll give you an example of Wi-Fi deployment. We installed Wi-Fi across our agency, across the country. And it took far longer than I thought, and it has nothing to do with technology.
Mm-hmm.
It has to do with negotiating with GSA so that you can get contractors in and bring them through. Those are the delays rather than technology. And I think that's valuable information like it's out there. Where we share.
Yeah, I think that's, so thank you for that question, and I think that's absolutely correct. As I said earlier, the federal agencies and departments don't do as good of a job of sharing best practices and learnings. At the CIO council level, they've started a best practices, there's a committee called Best Practices. One of the things they're looking to do is create a portal. They've been looking to develop this portal for some time, and that portal is intended to put out best practices such as that you've described. I see that as one vehicle, but I think that's just one. It's still, there are more things that we could be doing. If you have ideas, we would love to hear them, but I think it's going to be an evolution over time in finding ways to share best practices and learnings across the federal government. Now, I'm not sure the timing when that portal was going to be up, but the last I heard is they were working on that, and it would be something that would be very near in the future. Phil, can I ask you that question?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So the portal is there, the best practices, processes around best practices is coming over the next couple of months. I want to keep us focused, though, the difference between best practices and lessons learned, right? Best practices is we expect some vetting process and some maybe some gates, like maybe Eric takes the learning from lessons, but somebody else decides it's not a best practice, versus lessons learned, which is I'm going to put it out there and let the community learn and judge it and evaluate and comment and feedback as they want to. And I think that second, the lessons learned kind of then feeds into the best practice.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Who controls the funding for these IT programs within your organization?
You mean the ones that I had up there? I do.
And so you don't have to negotiate funding of all those offices within CPA.
No. Yeah, nope. I owned all the I own all the funding for those, and actually, it's interesting. The collaboration tools, how we're funding that is we're using our working capital fund, so we're taxing all the offices, and they don't have a choice. Yes, Brent.
There's two other things that people have found with this kind of strategy that need to be done, namely sharing the content for mobile devices and increasing the bandwidth to make collaboration tools work on mobile devices. Are you addressing those?
So from a WAN perspective, we have increased our bandwidth because we just completed that last year. The content piece is another one. I didn't touch on that, but we are working on that now. And we're doing that through a number of different ways. But we recognize that the content piece is critical, so we have a team focused on that and working on how we want to do that going forward in terms of rendering that data for devices. So it's smart enough to know that if the information or content is accessed, it knows what the device is and knows how to render it on that device. Yes?
Your collaboration effort that you've got going on, where do you get your requirements from? It kind of tags on what he's asking, because you look at collaboration and enterprise content management. Do you have those two tied together?
So our requirements, we actually reached out to other agencies and departments to understand their requirements. So we took into account, these are agencies and departments that recently moved to collaboration tools. So we gathered their requirements, took a very hard look at that. Then we reached out across the entire agency. So we had an integrated project team that Vaughn led that focused primarily on requirements for our collaboration tools, taking into account content and a number of different things. Security was one as well. But if you're looking for a more descriptive answer on that, you can speak with Vaughn and he can give you more of the details to address that question.
And I'm sorry, we're actually out of time for that question and answer. But Malcolm, I want to thank you so much for being here for the keynote.
Thank you.